Alright, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about my experience in the Hunger Games fandom and just sort of why it's important to me, kind of why I related to it and sort of like my journey throughout the fandom and throughout this whole entire franchise. So, yeah. I can't tell you the dates of like when I saw the first Hunger Games film and when I read the book first, and I can't tell you the very beginning of my entry into the fandom, but I know that I've been here since the very beginning and that I read the book before the movie came out. And I did not watch the movie in theaters, though. I watched it when it came out in DVD, so I may have seen it in like September of 2012 or something. I have no idea, even remember when I saw it because it's been so long. But I saw Catching Fire the Saturday of its release, and then I saw Mockingjay Thursday night of its release. So, yeah, those are the only really dates that I remember. But I think that's besides the point, because I don't think the dates necessarily matter, but more of how the series impacted you and how it's changed you and what it's done for you. So that's what I'm going to be more focusing on here in my experience. One of the reasons why I think the Hunger Games franchise is so important to me is the fact that it was the first book fandom I was ever involved in. So I think that's one of the reasons why that's really important for me, is the fact that the Hunger Games sort of opened up this whole entire new genre of young adult and of having a female heroine. Because prior to that, really the only major young adult book to movie adaptations you saw were Harry Potter and Twilight, and nobody even wants to go down the road of Twilight. So Harry Potter, for one, it featured a male protagonist, so already there's a big major difference there. And just for two, like, Harry Potter has lasted for a lot longer than the Hunger Games series did. There's more books, more of like a story to tell there. And I haven't read any of the Harry Potter books yet or seen any of the movies, and nobody kill me because that just really wasn't in my time-ish. So, yeah, but the Hunger Games series, the reason why it is so important to me is because it was the first book fandom I was ever really, truly, deeply involved in. And it kind of, like, my involvement in the fandom kind of started like that, because I read the first book, and then I saw the movie at my friend's house on DVD, and, it was, like, still kind of fuzzy. I remember on certain the characters, like, oh, this person was this, and this was that, but then, by the time I saw Catching Fire, like, I knew all of the actors, mostly, that were in the film, and I, like, was basically really, really into it. And then from Catching Fire to Mockingjay, I just got even more involved, and I made, like, a fan page, and, by then I knew all the characters' names, I knew all the actors, and I was, like, really, really deeply set in, as much as I am now, and then, it's only grown from there. But, it all happened at such a quick pace, and, I got so much from it, and, I think it's important, that the Hunger Games was my starting point, because I've read so many other books and fallen in love with so many other books since the Hunger Games, and that was sort of my root. Like, this fandom has always been my root in, like, books and loving really to read, because I read a lot as a kid before the Hunger Games series, and, like, when I was reading just, like, things like Candy Apple and like How to Survive Middle School or whatever, where it's just, like, books that are very, like, kiddish and, like, very simplistic. But the Hunger Games series was the first, like, young adult book I ever really read that covered, like, serious topics and everything. And so that was kind of my start into becoming a teenager and sort of thinking more sophisticatedly. And so I think that's really important for me, because now that I'm 15 and it's like 5 years later, almost maybe 6 even, I have no idea, I've read, like, millions of other books, and I've been exposed to all these adult concepts and all these different, complexities and relationships between characters, and, it's changed me, and it's kind of been changed and impacted about how I thought about things and everything, and so I can't thank the franchise enough and everybody involved in that for doing that for me, in making sort of this whole franchise so important for me and kind of making it a starting point for me into this whole world that I love so much, and something that I feel like is always going to stay with me because books are permanent. Like a certain book, it's not like a character can suddenly go and change. Like, the books and the stories and everything that happens is always going to be consistent. So if you like it now, you shouldn't, that shouldn't change like 10 years from now. So these are things that are going to stay with me forever, and they're super important to me. So Suzanne Collins, a huge thank you to her, because these stories have done so much for me. And I'm so happy and I'm proud to be a part of this fandom. And so some of the memories that I've had throughout the course of the franchise, now some of these are going to be really fuzzy, but first thing I actually ever remember is, I think, being in Target, and I saw the Hunger Games book, like, on the shelf, and I was like, oh, my friend read this, and so I want to go buy it, and my mom was like, oh, are you sure it's not, too grotesque or, like, violent or whatever for you, since I was, like, maybe, in 5th grade or something. And so I remember buying the book. I don't remember ever reading it, but I remember barely I remember buying it. And then I remember watching the movie at my friend's house, in her living room-ish area, and, and I, like, wasn't sure about some of the characters. Like, I really had no idea who was playing who, and I remember sort of her being confused and explaining stuff to me. But then, I know I read the book, so I think she was just sort of explaining things from me, because there was some stuff that was different from how the book was laid out. But, like, I think I read the book. I would have read the book before seeing the movie. That would have made sense. So, there's that. So all of that's super blurry. And then some point in that time, I read Catching Fire, and I finished reading Mockingjay. And I don't know the date I finished reading Mockingjay, but I know where I was. I was on the car on the way home from my vacation, and it was, like, downpouring rain, and I was finishing reading it in the back of the car. And another thing I remember is that when I was reading Catching Fire and Mockingjay, I pictured Finnick Odair as an old man, like, with a beer belly and, like, everything. And I had no idea why I pictured that, because the districts are starving, for one. And for two, it says that Finnick Odair right in there is, like, handsome and gorgeous. So I thought of that, and that's because I'm, like, horrible at picturing things in the book. But I thought I wanted to share that, because that's something that was just funny to me, and something that, I'm always going to remember from this. And, like, the minute I saw Finnick Odair, like, his character poster or whatever, I was like, yep, totally agree. Yep. Okay, so that just completely, like, I can't picture characters in books well. It's just, it never works out. And I totally accept, like, the movie director's images and, like, people that they cast, because I'm horrible at picturing characters. So that's something I remembered. All the Best Buy stuff, that I remember. I mean, there's so much stuff that's happened, and, like, so many memories, and, like, I mean, I can't even imagine, because it's just, I've been, in this fandom for so long, and so many things have happened, and, I've been so happy and so grateful to be a part of it. And, I remember finding out that Gary Ross was dropped, and he was like, oh, I'm not going to do the Catching Fire, but then Francis Lawrence came in, and I was like, oh my god, new director, what's going to happen, and everything. So I remember that, and, of course, Francis Lawrence is a god, and we all bow down to him, because he's fantastic, and he's done so much for this franchise. So thank you, Francis, and thank you, Nina, and oh my god, just thank you all for being so amazing and doing so much for all of us, and accounts for actors and people, just anybody at all who has ever been involved in the Hunger Games series, franchise, whatever. Whether you're involved in the process of writing the books, whether you're involved with the movies, being on set, or being an actor, or being an extra, or being somebody who does things like the props and the costumes and the hair and the makeup. God, there's probably millions of people that were involved in all of these movies and books and everything. And then the people who are doing the DVDs, like, oh my gosh, like, how many people were employed and have done stuff with this franchise. Thank you all so much, because you have, every single one of you, the little things that you have done have changed me and probably millions of other people. So this franchise is just, like, mega huge, and I'm so happy to be a part of it, and I can't even fathom the fact that it's over, because I've been here so long, and I've been thinking about it. Oh my gosh, there's going to be a day when it's, like, over and there's, like, nothing left, and I've just been, like, dreading it, and I've never really even bothered to process it, but now it's only, like, a week away. I am, like, freaking out, and just, whoa. So, oh my god. Okay, so to sort of sum up this entire video, my experience in the Hunger Games fandom has been one that's been crazy, chaotic, amazing, enjoyable, beautiful, just wow. And I wouldn't trade it for the world, because every little thing that I've gone through in this fandom has sort of changed me and changed the way that I've looked at things, and, changed my ways as a reader and as someone who's a writer too, because I love writing stories, and just, it's changed me as a person and how I look at things. And so this fandom and everything that is done through me for basically, almost as long as I can remember, throughout the past like 5-6 years of my life. You know, it shaped me, and it shaped me who I am as a teenager and who I'm going to be. And so every single person that's been involved, and every tribute who's been involved, whether you've been involved in this book series since day one or whether you got involved just a month ago. You know, anytime that you joined and decided that this is a book series that I love and that I want to be a part of, and you've become a tribute and you've done things for this franchise, and you've gone out and gone to press tours, or you've gone to meet the cast, or you've just gone and read the books and bought some merchandise, or whether you've just supported the books and been there as a fan, or if you've made an Instagram page and done all you can to support this franchise, then thank you for being here and being a fan. And I know there's so many people in this fandom that I haven't gotten to talk to yet, and so many fans I never will get to talk to. But no matter what happens, this franchise will never fade, and it's never going to be something that I'm going to forget. This fandom is important to me, and I love everything that I've had to go through throughout this fandom, and I couldn't be happier to call this my starting place in the book fandom-ish world. So, I'm probably going to be doing a review of The Hunger Games, Mockingjay Part 2, sometime the Monday after it comes out, so around Thanksgiving-ish week. But other than that, this is like one of my last actual videos in the Hunger Games series. So to top it off, shall I say, Happy Hunger Games, and may the odds be ever in your favor. Love you guys, and remember, that is mahogany.